There's been much dialogue so far. Are things quiet as you head toward draft night Friday night in terms of maybe possibly moving up?
There's been dialogue, but we haven't made any traction, and as it stands right now, I would expect that we're going to stay at 8.
Is the price too high, or how would you describe it?
It is for us. It may not be for other teams. I know that Dale is serious about moving it. I think he's happy to keep it as well, but he's not going to give that pick away. We have had discussions. I've talked to him as latest this morning, but at this point, I don't think it's a deal there for us.
Dave, as part of staying at 8, the fact that there's probably going to be a really good prospect or two available for you?
Yeah, that's a big part of it. Moving up to 1 or 2 or 3, does that increase your odds of picking an impact player? It does, but I believe, and I think most people believe that the odds aren't that different this year. That we will get a good player at 8. So would we move up? We would if the price was right, but it's not something we're desperate to do, and we're pretty content that we're going to get a quality player at 8.
Dave Morrison said this morning there's the big 4, I guess. So would that be as high as you'd like to go up for the right price?
Not necessarily, no. I mean, I think, again, the list, the players do differentiate themselves as you move down. It's just not that big of a change this year. But there is, in our mind, there is a change from pick to pick. So would we try to move up a little closer if we could? Yes, but I would probably tell you the same thing. I don't see us paying a large price to do that just because of the player that we're going to get at 8.
Dave, are there more moving parts because the draft is so close to free agency?
Yeah, that and the new 5-day window, which is I think teams are trying to figure out exactly how to maximize that. I think players are as well, and you've got trying to make maybe some changes to your team and the draft on Friday night. So a lot of things are squished into a pretty short period. I think that's making it a little difficult. There are teams that are trying to do something right now, but as you guys know, there's been very little announced. So it's tough right now to make a deal. I think that might change as we get closer to draft time, but right now it's pretty slow.
Dave, what do you think would sort of dislodge the logjam, if you will?
Well, maybe one of the purported big guys getting moved would start things along.
Yeah.
I believe that if one or both of those top guys get moved, then you might see some dominoes fall. And then the salary cap number being finalized will have an impact as well.
When you say top guys, do you mean top picks or top like the Kessler Spezzas of those?
Yeah, the top players that are out there right now that may or may not be moved. I mean, I think everyone's thinking that they're going to be, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're not. I mean, both those teams don't have to. They have good players, but if they do get moved, you might see some other things happen because of it.
Did you find the window useful?
I'm not sure yet. Again, it's useful in that you can lay some plans and some groundwork. Whether it helps in getting players in or not, I think that remains to be seen.
Third top 10 pick in the last 6 years. You look at Morgan and Nazem as maybe benchmarks to what you might get. Do you see a similarity in talent here in the event that you stay with 8 or perhaps even move up?
Yeah. No. Again, I think this may not have the superstar at the top, but I think most teams would agree there's some pretty good players in this draft that are going to be useful players on good teams. And it's important when you're picking at 8 that you get one of those players. We need to find a player at 8 that's going to have an impact. Whether it's next year, I think that's probably unlikely, possible, but unlikely. But down the road, you need this player to come in and have a very positive impact on our team.
What cost would be too high to move up?
That's
is giving up young players?
I mean, it's every draft is different. So when you're looking at John Tavares, who was maybe sitting there at first overall, that price tag is different than possibly moving up to take the player who's going to go 1 here. It doesn't mean that the player that goes 1 is not going to be a great player, but those price tags are different, and I think every team in the league would tell you that. So there's a number or a value that we place on moving up, and it wouldn't include our top young players. No.
When it comes to trade talk, how different is it that 5 or 6 of your colleagues now at GM jobs are first timers on the job? And does that change the dynamic when you talk to those guys that you don't quite know what their philosophy is as far as moving players or trades?
Well, a little bit, but they're not inexperienced in terms of being around the game and being around management. So I haven't experienced that they're afraid to do anything. That's for sure. I think those guys have been probably as active as some of the veterans, but it's hard to find matches. You know, it really is. There's teams that want to make deals, but there's cap implications. There's their own internal budgets that people, have set for themselves. Then there's the assets you have to give up. It's not as easy to make a deal as it used to be, but there'll be some deals this week, and we're going to do our best to see if we can be one of the teams that alters our team a little bit, but we're not going to jump out and make a deal just to say we did it.
Has the league told you when they're going to establish the salary cap?
No.
How would you get any indication from them? We're all hearing sort of around 70 million, but
Yeah, I'm just hearing actually, I'll be honest, I'm hearing what you guys are telling me. I mean, it hasn't been, we haven't been told a set number.
I know you're not allowed to talk money in this window, but does that make things a little bit tougher when you don't know that?
Not really, no. I mean, there are players that have interest. Yeah, money is going to be important for all the players who are free right now. But there are guys that you talk to and you know that there's genuine interest, and others that are, this may not be a good fit for me. And that's probably the biggest benefit of the window is you can tell which guys you might want to go harder after than others.
Dave, did you see?
At the beginning, that things might get a move on if some of the big names started to roll with the domino effect. What's your interest in some of the big name centers that we hear are available?
Well, they're both very good players, but I mean, I think that those players will probably be moved to different teams.
Is the price much different for those guys?
Yeah, we're not really in on those players for various reasons, and so I don't know what the price tag is, but I would expect that the price is pretty high. They're both quality centers that are very difficult to find. So, what that price is, I don't know.
How would you describe Brendan Shanahan's contributions in preparing for both the draft and free agency? What's he brought to the table?
Well, he's brought the view of a guy who played in the league and played on some pretty quality teams. He's got a different way of thinking of things than I do, which I think is actually it's worked pretty well. He's got a I wouldn't say a player's view, because he has been out of the game and he's worked at the league office, but he can approach things from a side of the game that I can't, which has been good.
Are you closer on the assistants?
Closer, but not done. Yeah.
Like the Marley success this spring provide you with players perhaps that could fill bottom 6 roles moving forward, perhaps as soon as this season?
Yeah, I mean, those guys, they've moved themselves up the depth chart. Whether they're ready to come in for full-time duty, and that's what training camp's for, but they're options, no question about it. They had those guys had a great run. They probably went as far as they should have, which is all you want out of the team. You want them to go as far as they can possibly go based on their talent level and experience. I think that the coaching staff did an excellent job there, but the players did as well. They all, I think, reached their potential, and we have some players there that are going to help us. Whether it's next year, I don't know, but we're pretty confident that we're starting to see some players move up that will end up being on our team, and that hasn't happened for a while.
Do you think you'll have some certainty with Boland before July 1st? So if you don't re-sign him, it doesn't work, you've got your plan B that you can go to right away?
Well, your only plan B is going to be the players you have under contract. Because you don't know who else you can sign. It's free agent period doesn't start till the 1st. So whether or not there's other centers besides David that we would get, there are other people that we would talk to, but it's not something where you just go from one to the other, because those players could sign elsewhere as well. So the only certainty that we have are players that are our own, and those are the guys that you would start the season with.
What's your latest contact with the Boland camp, and what do you think your chances are at this point? How would you characterize it?
Yeah, I wouldn't talk about chances, but we've been in constant conversation. You know, there's been open dialogue. I've spoken to Anton over the last couple of days, so it's not that we're not speaking to each other. It's at this point, you know, we haven't been able to find common ground for a deal.
Does the AAV of the Gabbert deal sort of provide kind of a benchmark in that respect, or?
Yeah, every player is different, and I think circumstances are different. So I wouldn't necessarily say that, but you know, there's a number and a term that we believe is fair, and David and Anton have a different number and a different term. So it's you know, we still have time to get something done, whether that happens or not. I mean, last year, you guys know we were in a similar situation with Tyler Bozak, and he ended up signing. You know, whether we get to that or not remains to be seen. But we're gonna keep in communication and see what's out there.
What about Leo Komarov? Any interest in bringing him back?
Yeah, at the right number. Yeah.
That's the right number.
I don't know. You know, Leo, he's a quality guy. Everyone knows, you know, that we liked him 2 years ago. He added an element to our team. If there's a number there that makes sense, and we would bring him back, and if not, then we would look elsewhere for that same element.
How about Kuhlman?
At this point, we haven't traded any type of discussions with Gary. I wouldn't rule that out, but we're going to get through the draft here first, and then see where we end up.
As James Reimer's camp indicated, maybe possibly moving elsewhere, so he might get a chance to start in another team.
I haven't talked to his agent or to James. You know, that's a possibility. The other possibility is to come here and try to start here. I mean, I don't necessarily think that if people are waiting for James to be gone, that's a certainty, because it's not. You know, he's a good goalie. He has the ability to start. Even last year, I think he started 10-6 or something like that, and he had a very good start. I wouldn't rule out him coming back.
Is it important that the team that you have on the ice for the first game is significantly different than the team that was on the ice for the last game?
No. It's important, I think, that we're more committed and maybe play differently, but you don't want to change just to say we have a different lineup if you actually go backwards in terms of personnel. So we're looking at change. We're looking to do things a little bit differently. We're looking for some of the players that were with us last year to improve, and that'll be I think the biggest thing we're going to point to as we get closer to camp. But there is going to be, there's going to be change just for the function of some players moving on, and you know, probably a deal or two along the way. But it's not that we feel like we have to do something, because that's how you really can set yourself back.